favorite dessert. Thanks to Google research engine, I am with confidence able to assert that based on twin criteria, literal and gastronomic, a favorite dessert, spelled with that double S, is the quintessential pièce de résistance in a way that the White Desert, a day's drive from Luxor in Egypt, would not be. Why Luxor? This demands an explanation that follows these dictionary examples of the best and most important or exciting thing in a series of things. Example 1. The pièce de résistance of his stage act was a brilliant Barbra Streisand impression. Example 2. The pièce de résistance was undoubtedly the crème brûlée with strawberry compote. Example 3. The pièce de résistance of the meal was flaming ice cream. In the much earlier days of the 1960s, I would be traveling to Paris fairly frequently on business and would sometimes make reservations at the Hôtel de Crillon, fronted by the majestic architecture of Henri-Jacques Gabriel, which overlooks the spectacular Place de la Concorde, on which stands the Luxor obelisk, erected in 1836 at great expense and with technical engineering at the initiative of King Louis Philippe. Carved in the 13th century, Cleopatra's Needle, as some call it, is a monument 23 meters high, weighing 222 tons, excluding the pedestal. It is made from Aswan pink granite and is very low in quartz. The obelisk, one of a pair, was a gift to France from the Viceroy of Egypt, Mehemet Ali, in recognition of the close ties between Egypt and France. The other obelisk that remains in Egypt is positioned at the entrance of the Temple Amun in Luxor. Le Boudoir displays a treasure trove of enticing desserts, sweet gourmet delights offering a selection of the Hôtel de Crillon's finest pastries and desserts available to eat in or take away. Dessert lovers can choose from the pastry chef Pablo Guiquel's signature creations such as Hermantite, the Mont Blanc, the Nuage de Jasmine, the Choux d'Amour, or the Tarte Chocolat. Fruit-filled miniature Yule logs, chocolates, and desserts to share, such as the Alliance Chocolat, add to the festive ambiance of special holidays such as Easter, Christmas, and 14 Juillet, France's Independence Day. The favorite desserts with a French name pictured above are generally popular, and they're actually pictured below. They are regarded as exotic. The French, in their desire to complement great desserts by giving them names that titillate the salivary glands, baked Alaska and crème brûlée. In the first, several layers of different flavors of ice cream are placed in the liquor-drizzled frozen mound, which is lit to produce flames that are decorative and exciting. The second sumptuous dessert is a steamed custard served in individual dishes with the caramelized sugar topping baked in the oven, hence its given name. But neither of these remarkable desserts rank as my favorite. What is traditionally a familiar chocolate meringue cake is my favorite dessert, and is one of the specials served in Le Boudoir. And it is a chocoholic's dream, made with crisp meringue layers, sandwiched with luscious chocolate mousse, and topped with chocolate shavings. If you were to assume that its name was inspired by the sophisticated, rich, and royal surroundings with the Egyptian obelisk tipped with gold, your assumption would not be exactly correct. What is described is not named after the dramatic square called Place de la Concorde. It is known to me as simply Gâteau Concorde, and some may associate it with a pastry chef extraordinaire, Le Nôtre. I mentioned earlier that I traveled often to Paris in the good old days, when the EU was still a dream in the aspirational thought processes of Europeans, especially the English. It is in this context that France and England made a solemn commitment to develop an aircraft to outshine and outperform any known passenger airplane. That dream would come true when the characteristic bird-like nose of the Concorde, with its graceful wingspan, climbed upward from a tarmac in Paris, New York, or London, transporting its load of 100 excited passengers whose need to be in more than one place at the same time, Concorde service always tried to fulfill. In doing so, they would exceed Mach 2, twice the speed of sound itself, and, for example, arrive at Kennedy before they left Heathrow, as I did one miraculous evening in 1996, when it was the only possible way of meeting with Scotland Yard at sunset and making the appointment with the State Department that same evening before flying back to Jamaica the following morning. That was possible thanks to the aeronautical miracle of a Concorde flight across the Atlantic. Who hasn't listened to a confectionary artiste describe a dessert in deliriously ecstatic terms and longed for a taste? Sadly, only a few of these desserts live up to their storied reputation. This is perhaps because taste, memory, is so strongly linked to the memory of place, people, mood, and experience, and so rarely do all of these converge. I observed the Gâteau Concorde on the menu and prayed rather than hoped my first taste of it on board the aircraft, which gave this delicacy its name, would be delectable. The stronger feeling was a hunch the dessert would disappoint, albeit that it was commissioned to be served on the airplane I had just boarded to transport two lucky jet-setters on government security business between the two world capitals in a mere 3 hours. How wrong I was. This cake is nothing short of sublime. It seemed like a power stronger than Mother Luck had destined that this desert treat should be named after the sleek, modern aircraft, rather than the historical Parisian square, where centuries earlier some greedy example of the nobility had come to his or her end via the guillotine. I still remember some of the description of the cake that was served on board Concorde that evening. Created by the legendary pâtissier Gaston Lenôtre, the Gâteau Concorde is in fact not a cake, but a chocolate riff on a dacquoise. A dacquoise is a heavenly, fanciful thing made with discs of nut meringue that sandwich buttercream, chantilly, or fruit, or a combination of all three. It hails from the town of Dax in southwestern France. Monsieur Lenôtre turned the classic nut meringue into a chocolate dream. In his version, 3 chocolate meringue discs are layered with a chocolate mousse that is, in fact, a brilliantly rich but ethereal ganache with the consistency of a mousse and is decorated with shards of dark chocolate. It's pure elegance in its simplicity and pure luxury in its richness. The meringue is made at least 6 hours in advance, and the ganache can be as well. The decoration requires nothing more than a chocolate bar and a vegetable peeler, although one can just as easily dust the dacquoise first with cocoa powder, then confectionery sugar. If berries are in season, add a few to the top for color. The Concorde was retired in 2003 after a terrible crash. When new jets come on stream, a smart airline will continue to serve this chocolate dacquoise. And whomsoever writes that story will suggest that the Concorde in Gâteau Concorde refers to the fact that the finest desserts are still available at Le Boudoir on the corner of the legendary Place de la Concorde at 6 Rue Boissy, Douglas.
I might clarify